We would like to thank Reverend Cromwell Handy for that awesome prayer. The major feature of this occasion are the remarks to be given by Dr. Gwendolyn E. Board, President of Alabama State University, Ms. Sandra L. Taylor, Superintendent of the Selma to Montgomery National Write-in Votes Trail, and Congresswoman Terry Sewell, Representative of Alabama 70 Congressional District in the House of Representatives. Dr. Board, Ms. Taylor, and Congresswoman Sewell will offer comments on the partnership between ASU and the NPS to construct and operate in Montgomery, Alabama, the third interpretive center for the National Voting Rights Trail. We will now hear from Dr. Board, Ms. Taylor, and Congresswoman Sewell.
Good afternoon to everyone. Thank you, Mr. President. Welcome all to Alabama State University on this glorious day. We are happy to be gathered here to sign a memorandum of understanding between the National Park Service and Alabama State University. This signifies our mutual agreement that the third and final National Park Service Interpretive Center will be here on this campus to commemorate the historic 1965 Selma to Montgomery March. We are excited that on this spot, this prominent spot, on the campus of Alabama State University and in the city of Montgomery, this interpretive center will be built. The purpose of this edifice is to tell the Montgomery story of the historic march and indeed of the noble and peaceful quest and campaign for voting rights and equal justice under the law. The voting rights campaign came to a crescendo in the months of February and March of 1965 after the murder of Jimmy Lee Jackson by an Alabama state trooper and the savage actions of the police against John Lewis and countless others under peaceful voting rights support on the Selma Edmund Pettus Bridge. But there were bullets, beatings, tear gas, bullwhips, electric cattle prods, dynamite, cross burnings, and many other negative acts. But none of them could deter the successful march up Montgomery's Dexter Avenue, which occurred on March 25th, 1965, as over 25,000 lovers of liberty gathered and heard one of Dr. King's most famous speeches in front of the Alabama State Capitol. It is without question that the Selma to Montgomery Voting Rights March of 1965 was one of the most historic and important advances for freedom and equality of the modern age. That is why the National Park Service wishes to have a third and final interpretive center built here in Montgomery to honor the earth-shaking events that took place here. The center that will be built here at ASU will tell the complete and total story of how many different people and several different locales in Montgomery all came together to play an integral and important part in the success of the march and its movement. As other groups and locations in Montgomery may say with equal pride, I am proud to say that Alabama State University students, faculty, and staff played a pivotal role in the events leading up to and contributing to the success of the Selma to Montgomery March. In looking through the annals of campus history, we find that Dr. King specifically asked the faculty and students of ASU, which was then called Alabama State College, to join with him in what he called a dramatic attempt to lay the cornerstone of a true democracy. And indeed, they laid a cornerstone of democracy in Montgomery, just as we will lay a cornerstone at this location in the very near future, which will be Montgomery's Interpretive Center. In closing, let me say that our university is honored to be a partner with the National Park Service in this project. Our thanks to Superintendent Taylor of the National Park Service and her staff for selecting Alabama State University for working in partnership with us. We want to also thank Congresswoman Sewell for all that she has done and will do in the future to help Montgomery's Interpretive Center receive and obtain the needed federal and congressional recognition and, of course, the funding necessary to make this project successful. And we also wish to thank those countless others in government and those who are part of the Montgomery community who are here today, who have worked so hard to make sure that the initial funds to put this in place have taken place. Dr. Ella Bell, Dr. Thad McClammy, and of course Dr. Janice Franklin of our faculty. We pledge today to all those souls who took part in this great campaign for freedom that Montgomery's Interpretive Center will be a living, breathing, speaking, organic structure which will touch many lives with its poignant story. It will especially touch a very important segment of our society, which is our students. The students who walk the grounds of Alabama State University, from the Zelia Stevens pre-K program to those who are doing postdoctoral work here at Alabama State, because our students are our greatest asset. And it will be the mission of the Montgomery Interpretive Center to expose our students and countless other students from around the world to the true story of freedom and democracy that emanates from the story of the Selma to Montgomery March, from the center's exhibits, and from the myriad stories that it will tell, which will reflect the courage, the sacrifice, the determination, the resilience, and yes, the faith of those who worked to participate in the Selma to Montgomery March, an event that touched the very fabric of Montgomery, Alabama, and indeed touched the fabric of the world. Thank you.
Good afternoon. Good afternoon, President Boyd, Congresswoman Sewell, who is on her way, Mr. DuBose, Reverend Handy, distinguished visitors, guests, family, and friends. Today, we continue our journey to tell the amazing stories of the Selma to Montgomery National Historic Trail, with the development of its third Interpretive Center, located here on the campus of Alabama State University. Legislation for the trail directed the National Park Service to establish 3 interpretive centers, one in Selma, one in Lowndes County, and one in Montgomery, Alabama. The Lowndes Interpretive Center, located in Whitehall, is the halfway point along the 54-mile trail and serves as the major point for visitor connection. This facility was constructed by the state of Alabama, and 3 years ago in May, the property officially transferred to the National Park Service to own it, operate it, and maintain it. The second Interpretive Center came online in March of 2011. Through the cooperative efforts of the City of Selma, the city owns the building and provides its upkeep. We own the exhibits, we operate the bookstore, and we staff the site. Through this partnership, the Selma Interpretive Center offers permanent multimedia interactive exhibits that addresses Selma's role in the Voting Rights March of 1965. This center is located at the foot of the Edmund Pettus Bridge, now a National Historic Landmark. Today, we are proud to partner with Alabama State University and HBCU to establish the Montgomery Interpretive Center. Together with others, we will develop and implement educational exhibits and interpretive programming to primarily focus on the days of preparation, including the evening of the Stars for Freedom on the campus of St. Jude Educational Institute, and the final day of the march, where demonstrators trekked from the city of St. Jude, stopping at Mount Zion AME Zion Church to refresh themselves before entering downtown Montgomery onto the steps of the Alabama State Capitol. During those 11 days, the Montgomery community prepared meals, provided housing, water stations, medical assistance to those marchers. The Montgomery community contributed to the movement infrastructure that enabled the success of the march for voting rights. We are honored to partner with the citizens of Montgomery as we again move forward in getting this story told. As this partnership enters the next phase to construct a facility and develop exhibits that will invite new audiences and assist students in the exploration to live, learn, and grow in a city rich with cultural and history of the modern civil rights movement. As the 50th anniversary approaches, the world descends on this historical landscape. We are grateful to have the continued support of our community leaders, friends groups, partners, churches, and volunteers. Connecting people to parks is a major initiative of the National Park Service. We will be celebrating our 100th anniversary in 2016. And by expanding our parks and trails to places of learning, it enables us to inform, educate, and inspire visitors about the phenomenal legacy of this human rights story and its impact on America and the world. Thank you.
To Dr. Boyd and to the faculty and students of Alabama State University, to the elected officials that have joined us, to Sandy Taylor and all of the Park Service that are represented here today, and of course to all of the historical figures, the frontline freedom fighters that were there on the front lines. To all of you, I say good afternoon. It is indeed an honor and a privilege for me to be here to open up and to acknowledge the groundbreaking for the third installment of this most auspicious interpretive center that will be housed at Alabama State University. I am thrilled to be here as yet another part of this important trail is told. The Selma to Montgomery Trail has brought thousands of people here to Montgomery, to Birmingham, to Selma, to our state, an acknowledgement of the pivotal role that our state played in the voting rights movement and the civil rights movement. And so it is an honor for me to be on the campus of Alabama State University, not only as your congresswoman, but as a proud product of two Hornets who proudly wear the black and gold and have in their hearts a love of this great institution. I am honored here to be with you today. As a native of Selma, I am always pleased that the federal government, the state, all of us, a collaborative effort such as this would not be possible if we didn't join forces and leverage our resources in order to tell the story, the complete story of what happened in our great state. And that's what this interpretive center will do today. I am so pleased and honored, Dr. Boyd, that this legacy will live on here at Alabama State University. And whatever we can do to make sure that others get to hear the story and be involved in this great project, know that we will do all that we can do from the federal government in assisting you and making sure that the story is being told. You know, I had an opportunity to be with the director of the National Park Service, Mr. Jarvis, most recently, and he was enamored of all that we're doing to make sure that we preserve the legacy that is ours, an auspicious legacy that we have here. And I know that this is but one part of it, but I'm excited not only because it's going to be housed here at Alabama State, but it will also tell the story of how Alabama State students were so pivotal in the role as freedom fighters and as restorers of the legacy. I think that's most important. In conclusion, I just wanted to say that I am sorry that I was a little late. You know, we have many events that go on across this great district, but I wouldn't miss this for the world, because I know today what joins forces is the National Park Service and Alabama State University and the state of Alabama in making sure that the legacy that is so important that we not only preserve but that we further. You know, it seems like old battles have become new again as we continue the struggle for civil rights and voting rights. And no better place than to have this third interpretive center as a part of the Selma Interpretive, the Selma to Montgomery Trail, than to have it housed right here at Alabama State University. I say in the great tradition, go Hornets. May we further the legacy that is ours. And if those of us who are not keepers of the dream continue to further the legacy that we've inherited, no one else will. And I know how important you here at Alabama State know the importance of that legacy. It is a dream that continues to march on. We look forward to the 50th anniversary of the Selma to Montgomery March, and we know that this interpretive center will play a pivotal role in our tourism. So thank you so much.
Dr. Board and Ms. Taylor will now sign a memorandum of understanding stating the significance of this joint effort to tell the story of Montgomery's involvement in 1965 Selma to Montgomery Voting Rights Campaign and the Interpretive Center at Alabama State University. It has been my pleasure to serve as Master of Ceremony on the day that inaugurates a new phase in the efforts to preserve a history which represents the very essence of this great nation. When constructed, this facility will serve as a beacon of hope to all of those who believe in democratic values upon which the nation was founded. This Interpretive Center will remind the nation and the world of the struggle in this very city and in this state to ensure that democracy and freedom will never die. Dr. Wendy Coleman will now use music to invoke the ideal of freedom in American and African American history in a selection once sung by African American slaves. Her selection will be followed by the benediction by Reverend Handy. Thank you.
Oh, freedom. Oh, freedom. Oh, freedom over me. And before I'll be a slave, I'll be buried in my grave and go home to my Lord and be free. Oh, freedom.